Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our SWK webinar on secure cloud hosting and the hosting world as we know it. I want to take a moment to welcome all of you. My name is BJ O'Reilly. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for SWK. I've also been in the Sage 100 world for over 24 years, so have a lot of background on the Sage 100 side. As well as some of our other products, Sage 500, Acumatica as well. So I'll be taking you through hosting today, and I would ask if you have a question, by all means, go ahead and type it into the chat window. We are in listen-only mode, so therefore I can't hear you if you ask a question online or ask a question over the phone. And if you want to go ahead and raise your hand and ask a question, Helen, who is with us, will be taking those questions and formulating them, and then I'll address them at the end of our webinar as well. I would also ask too, if you are interested in the hosting profile, reach out to your customer account managers. For those of you, if you're not sure who that is, by all means, we'll send out some contact information at the end of this webinar to all of you so that you can get in touch with your a customer account manager. They're welcome to provide quotes or other information that you might need regarding our hosting. So my hopes are today is to take you through this, answer any particular questions. I don't believe we'll take up the full hour of time, but I do definitely want to cover some very pertinent information. So with that said, I will get started and move forward. So here's our agenda for our meeting today. So we're going to talk about what is hosting, why is secure cloud hosting so different from what you have now. We're going to talk about the when, the why does hosting come up for our customers, and what are the differentiators of our hosting solution. So what makes us different? We do have some really nice differentiators. So with that said, we'll move on to our hosting side of things and be able to go through this information. So what is hosting? So you think about it right now, most of you have an infrastructure. You might have an on-premise server. I apologize. I will, there is some automated transitions here. So apologies on that. So for some reason, our system is transitioning automatically. So what is hosting? Instead of messy racks of servers, you guys have got all of this on-premise. You have all this hosting information. I mean, all of this servers on-premise. You've got all of these other pieces that are a part of your on-premise solution. So, you know, racks, a lot of people are putting their hosting inside of their, inside of closets. We're putting them where we can. And so hosting really is, we've taken that infrastructure, we've taken all of those servers that you have on premise, and we've put them up into a data center, in a fully secure data center, by the way, and we're hosting them for you. So we're taking that physical hardware layer out of your office, we're taking it and moving it up into a located data center. So it definitely makes a difference. So, and we call that on-premise, and now we call it hosted, right? And, you know, as we talk about terminology here, I'll definitely explain the terminology. So an on-premise solution and what we call infrastructure as a service. So a lot of you may hear the term SaaS, or you might hear the term other terms. What you call a hosted environment, such as running Sage 100, is an infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. Okay. So why is secure cloud different than what you have now? So here's the big question. You know, most C-levels will tell you their network is secure. So we went out and we actually did a survey, and we said, do you believe your network's secure? And the most respondents at the executive level said, absolutely. Our system is secure. It is, you know, secure from the perspective of not being able to be accessed. We know that there's things in place. I have antivirus, I have these other things. That's great. But the reality is, you know, they're not secure. So, you know, that's one question that gets asked. The other thing is, do I have a great IT person? We ask that question, do you have IT? Yes, I have an IT staff. He comes and sees me once every 2 months. So from that perspective, that IT person, their perception is they're a great person. They do the job. They take care of me. It's all fantastic, So can a network engineer or team protect your data? That's a very good question. So a lot of people, when they think about an IT person, they think this IT person themselves knows everything about everything they do, and that's one of the misnomers in our world. So as you know, technology is ever evolving, it's changing, it changes radically, and so do what I call the gangster world of technology, and that is hackers. They're evolving much more rapidly than our technology. So you bought a server 5 years ago, and guess what? It's not as up to date as you think it is. So even though your antivirus might be up to date, even though you may think you are protected, they're evolving. They're figuring out how they can better get into your system. And, network security and data security, are they the same things? And I would tell you that network security and data security are two different things. So if I was to take a poll of everybody online today and ask them how many think that their data is secure, you might all raise your hand. And I'd say, well, how many of you allow outside access to your data? And most of you would say, nope. I don't allow outside access. Well, the minute you have an email program inside your network, you're allowing outside access. You are allowing something to come internally into the system and have access to your data security. So don't think that you're completely as secure as you might think. And then the last question we deal with on a quite often basis is, why would a hacker attack me? I'm just a small fish out there. I'm not, something worthy of being attacked. And I would tell you, they don't distinguish on whether you're big or small. They distinguish on whether you open something up and you activate a piece of software that hacks. They're sending out information to people, not knowing how big, how small you are, what kind of company you are. They're just looking for an opening. So don't think that a hacker is just targeting you. They're targeting everybody. So the big question you have with companies is, when and why does hosting come up? Are any of these scenarios familiar? The big question is, and when I started out doing hosting in our Sage 100 world, it's a hardware issue, it's a software, and it was back and forth, right? So it wound up being this issue where there was a lot of finger pointing, and then your frustration rises because your IT person says it's the software company says it's the IT person, and that's why our hosting came into being. It was no longer a finger pointing scenario. We designed Secure Cloud to host specific applications. The beginning, it was Sage 100, then it moved to 500, and so forward on to different ERP packages. We designed each scenario to take care of that. So we also designed it to be a single solution. So when you're on Secure Cloud, you're fully managed. So you can completely call us and we'll help you with those scenarios. If we do believe it's a software issue and it extends beyond our capabilities, we know what it is. We're going to pass that on to your software provider and be able to help and assist in that transition. So we're not going to point the finger. We're going to know why it's that particular scenario. So when and why does hosting come up? And are any of these scenarios familiar? Boss, we don't have a choice. I have to spend 150 grand on new servers. This is the piece of it that I think is probably the biggest component that we see in the hosting world, is this understanding that we have to spend money on infrastructure. And I tell people, if you're not budgeting annually for you to keep your infrastructure up to current levels, then it's a challenge for you. You have an issue that might arise that requires a new piece of software. So even though you may spend 150 grand today, that doesn't mean you're not going to spend more money in year 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I would task you, if you were going to look at hosting and look at an on-premise solution, the comparative between that has to be a 5-year model. You have to look at that between the two to really get a good feel of what that cost is going to be, because the servers and computers are just one aspect of it. The service of IT infrastructure, ongoing management, and unexpected business interruption are all things you have to factor in. So the nice thing for us is with Secure Cloud is we offer you just a low monthly fee. It's all inclusive. You don't have to worry about your OS. You don't have to worry about if I'm secure. You have to be ready to go. You're ready to go out of the box. Everything's all new technology, constantly being updated, and we are updating our infrastructure on a monthly basis, and you would never know it. So if you're, tomorrow you could be on a brand new piece of equipment and you would never know it. We are operating that type of infrastructure to make a minimal impact to you as a business so that we can complete those upgrades behind the scenes. So even if you bought new servers, you're going to have a business interruption to do that. So the better one, I think, is, company gets hit with ransomware, owner wonders why he wasn't properly protected. So I would tell you, and I'll share this piece of information with you, is that over the course of the last 4 to 6 months, we've seen a rise in ransomware attacks. So people who said, nobody cares about Sage 100, that why would they attack my data? And again, I want you to know they're not going after your Sage 100, they're going after your systems in general. And most of you have probably read the news articles about governments being attacked, cities being attacked, and the odds that you're going to get your data back are very slim. So, paying ransomware attackers is not a sure sign that you're going to get your data back. And I would tell you, we've had in the last 4 months, we've had 6 customers aggressively attacked, to the point where their data was, compromised fully and they didn't have access to it. Here's the big kicker: of those customers, 50% of them didn't have adequate backups. Their backups were old, nobody had tested them, nobody had checked them. And so that really makes a big difference in the fact that even though you're dependent on an IT infrastructure, you may be an internal IT person, it may be external, having backups is important. And that is something that we pride ourselves at Secure Cloud. We spend a lot of money on backup technology. We want you to have your data secured in multiple places at multiple times. Makes a big difference. So, and why wasn't I protected? The other thing we've done is we have partnered with a company called CyberHat, which is a security operations center. This is a big differentiating factor for us because we no longer are, fully dependent on just a piece of software. We're using a network operations center, our security operations center, out of Israel. And this security operations center runs 24/7, monitoring everything coming in and out of our data center and looking for potential attacks and then going after them. So we've kind of turned around and said, if you're going to come after us, we're going to go after you. And that's a big differentiator. A lot of hosting companies are not offering cybersecurity. And I would tell you, in today's world, if you're going to have your access your system from somewhere in the United States, having that type of protection makes a big difference. So, this is probably one of the harder parts too. In the world of hosting, we hear this quite a bit, right? So productivity functionality is a big issue, right? So having access to that information is important, and we want to have that functionality not be, be hindered and have the morale of your individuals, be impacted. So when things aren't working, if they're breaking, things can't print, I'm not able to functionally get to the data or information I need. That obviously causes issues. And then, as you know, smaller companies, it goes uphill to the boss, and then the boss is wanting to know why. So we try to take a lot of that out of the infrastructure. Keep in mind, we're part of the equation in the world of hosting, because your bandwidth between our data facility and your office, we want to check things to make sure that there's not any irregularities or issues there. Again, we're not here to finger point. We're going to work with your on-premise IT and or outsource IT to figure out what the issue might be if there's something causing an impact to us. It's very rare. We don't see it as much anymore. The technologies that we're using, could care less about firewalls. They're not independent or affected by tons of antivirus issues. All the things that might affect your application, we're pretty much worked around. So, but if we have hit something, and it does happen on occasion, probably 90 to 95% of the time we've already experienced it, and we should be able to resolve it quickly. So the nice thing is, with an infrastructure like Secure Cloud, we have the ability to burst as you need it. So we can burst up and burst down. So, hey, we're seasonal. We have a hosting customer that, in the summer months, they burst up to 30 users, and the winter months, they're down to 10. So we have the ability to do that for you, right? So we can give you more infrastructure when you need it and less infrastructure when you don't. You pay in a consumable basis. Not much dissimilar to your world of electricity. If you need more in the summer to run your air conditioner, like Helen and Phoenix, you are prone to, be able to, burst up for that and spend what you need. And then when you don't need as much in the winter, when it's a little cooler, then, you spend less. So makes it nice for you to be able to do that from that standpoint. The other thing is, if you're a growing company, you bought a server 2 years ago and suddenly you've doubled in size, odds are that server is not at capacity or size successfully to be able to meet the needs of the organization, and we can continue to do that very easily. A couple adjustments, a quick reboot, and you're set to go. Makes it nice. So here's some of our differentiators, right? So things that I think make us different from the perspective of an organization, and that is, these are the pieces I think that set us apart from being just a single hosting provider for you. And one of those things is we have lower monthly costs than Amazon, AWS, or Azure. And I will say this, that one of the things I set out when we started doing Secure Cloud is we really wanted to provide a fixed monthly fee. So for those of you that might have experienced AWS or Azure, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's, drive space and a fixed IP. You can have all these things that add up to a monthly cost, but the variability of that monthly cost is your input and output of data. So from that perspective, I wanted it to be simple. So when you had more users, we burst it up. When you had less users, we burst it down. It made it simple for you because you didn't have these, oh yeah, here you go, you burst it up too much, so you're gonna have extra dollars. So we definitely have a lower monthly cost on that side. So we're also a single vendor for you, so we know Sage applications, we know software, we know infrastructure, and we have all of the people and staff on place are specific to ERP applications. So that's what we work with every day. We're not hosting just generic things out there like Amazon where you host whatever you want. We're hosting specifically and designed specifically for your ERP world. So, and then we're followed with world-leading cybersecurity, 24/7, 364 security monitoring. And you're going, why isn't it 365? Because in the 24/7 world, they consider that extra day to be not necessarily misleading. So we do monitor you all the time. So it's definitely on that side. We also have network operations center that monitors our data center 24/7 as well. And they're doing updates or doing things to the systems during non-peak hours and making sure that they're not invasive to rebooting you in the middle of your day. So it makes it nice. So, we're network supported by the an MSP department that's ranked 50th up in the top 50th of the world. We've got powerful business continuity with fault tolerance and full redundancy. So, like I said, we spend a lot based on our backups. So it's one thing to have business continuity redundancy where the systems are redundant, which we do have. It's another to have data redundancy. So, and I'll give you an example. So Amazon will tell you they have data redundancy because they have geo redundancy across multiple variances in their data center. But what happens when and this happened to a customer, what happens if you're attacked even in the Amazon world? Now, Amazon will isolate you, but your data wasn't backed up, thinking I didn't have to back it up. It has geo redundancy. Well, if you wrote bad data here, you're going to write bad data there. So, so we spend a lot to have multiple data architectures and multiple backup architectures. So we do separate our backups for SQL. We do separate backups for our servers. We do separate backups for data. And here's the best one is we run backups every hour during your business productivity day. So between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. in whatever time zone you exist, our systems back you up every hour. So if you were to have an update issue, and it has happened, we could restore you to the nearest hour of your backup. So again, difference, a lot of my competitors back up nightly. That's not going to do you any good if you had something happen. So we have dynamic provisioning, so we can boost you up when you want with a quick reboot. And again, that continuity. And the biggest thing is friendly and courteous support, all US based. So all of our support technicians are all US based. They all help on that side. So we definitely want you to have somebody that is a US based organization. Makes a big difference. So here's something that can help for you as well. So typically, for the most part, from an organization standpoint, we're offering a free migration into our cloud infrastructure over the next 6 months. So, your setup, your migration, all of it's waived. So we'll get you from on-premise into the cloud. If you decide you want to do an upgrade, then that's a different story. You can work with your Sage 100 team or any of your accounting teams and talk about an upgrade. But it's a good opportunity to do that. So migration still, to a certain extent, free. The cost of your upgrade is not free. You would have to work with your Sage 100 team. But if you want to move on-premise like to like, we'll move you on-premise. As long as your version of accounting software is still compatible with our current operating systems in our cloud, then we won't have a problem. If there is a compatibility issue, then we'll alert you before we ever do that migration. But for the most part, if you're mostly current on most of your accounting software, we can get you up into the cloud at little expense to you as well. So that definitely will make a difference. So when we quote you, we quote your fee bid depending on the number of users, licenses, storage requirements are all then quoted. But we have a pretty standard price. Again, not trying to to nickel and dime you. We're trying to give you things to make the expense, this is what it is. So if you go to your boss and say, it's going to cost us $750 a month for hosting, it's $750 month 1, month 2, month 3. So, and we do annual looks at our hosting, and in January, most of our pricing changes from Microsoft based on licensing, but they've been pretty minimal. So it makes a big difference. So get a chance, migrate up into the cloud for free. We're happy to have you, and we can make it easy. So with that said, Helen, I'm going to revert back to you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, BJ. We do have one question from Sheila. She's asking if we have a chart comparing our available features to Amazon and Microsoft.
So we don't, because I don't have an exact comparison, but we will send you out, Sheila, a comparison to other hosting that specifically do ERP. Amazon and Azure are an on-demand system that really requires somebody with some IT knowledge to really operate with them. So I haven't really done a net comparison in that sense. I know I'm lower pricing wise because we're fully managed. So when we deliver to you, we deliver you in a fully managed situation, where with Amazon or Azure, you would need to have some management. But we'll get a chart out to you that kind of compares us to some of our other competitors that are more boutique to ERP hosting. I'm happy to do that. Anything else, Helen?
That is it for questions.
Okay.
If anyone else has a question, now would be the time to ask. If not, feel free to reach out to us and we can answer them offline. And I don't see anything else that's come in.
Okay. Well, with that said, I'm going to thank everybody for attending today. I do appreciate it. If you think of anything else, like I said, reach out to your customer account managers, and we'll also follow up this webinar with some additional information. But we're happy to have any of you on the cloud side. Feel free to send those questions, and they'll engage our secure cloud hosting team. With that said, I appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for attending our webinar.